To our amazing viewers at Midnight Affairs Tales, welcome and thank you. Your presence makes these stories worth sharing. We'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know now. Let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. He hit me, she cried, her voice shaking just enough to sound convincing. He slammed me into the wall. I thought I was going to die. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge leaned forward. And there I was, standing in the middle of it all, painted as the monster she'd spent months carefully describing to anyone who would listen. Her voice cracked at just the right moment. A tear slid down her cheek. She even flinched when the bailiff walked too close, like she was still scared of me. Everyone turned to look at me like I was the villain in some Lifetime movie. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Not yet. Because in my pocket was something better than a defense, the truth. Cold, silent, digital truth. Captured not by me, but by her. She thought she was clever. She thought she was untouchable. But she made one mistake. She forgot her fancy fitness bracelet didn't just track steps. It recorded video, audio, GPS. She wore it like a badge of power, every day, even when she rehearsed her lies in front of the mirror. And I had it all. So I stood there, calm, silent, watching the courtroom buy into her performance. Watching her attorney act outraged on her behalf. Watching the judge scribble something down, maybe a note about jail time, maybe a custody decision. I didn't know. Yet, all I knew was this. I'd waited long enough. Let her finish her act. Then, it would be my turn. 6 months earlier, I never could have imagined this. We weren't perfect, who is? But we had a life. A kid. A routine. I cooked dinner most nights. She posted about self-care and motivational quotes. To outsiders, we looked stable. Behind closed doors, it was a different story. It started with little things. Missing money from our shared account. Late-night texts she hid behind her phone. Sudden weekend trips to her friend's cabin that I wasn't invited to. I asked questions, sure. But I wasn't confrontational. I believed in working things out. Then came the outbursts. She'd twist conversations until I couldn't tell which one of us was being unreasonable. If I was quiet, I was cold. If I spoke up, I was angry. She started telling people I had mood swings, that she wasn't sure she felt safe anymore. At first, I thought it was just a bad phase. Then one night, she came home with a bruise on her arm and posted a vague message on Facebook. Some people show their true colors when they think no one's watching. People started commenting. Ming me, asking if everything was okay. That was the first shot. I didn't know it, but she was laying the groundwork, setting the stage. A week later, I came home to find the front door wide open. Furniture tipped over. She was sitting on the couch crying, holding our son. She snapped, she said when the cops showed up. He just lost it. I tried to calm him down. He shoved me. The officers didn't arrest me that night, but they took a report. They left with concerns, and I saw it in their eyes. I was already guilty. That night I slept in my car. Lawyers got involved. Court dates were set. She filed for full custody and a restraining order. My friends? Split down the middle. Some believed me, some didn't want to get involved. Even my own brother asked me, is there any truth to it? There wasn't. But it didn't matter. Not in a system that often assumes better safe than sorry. I started losing everything. My job put me on unpaid leave while they investigated. My apartment lease was in both our names. She changed the locks and said I abandoned the home. I lived out of a hotel for 2 months. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I did something better. I remembered the bracelet. It was one of those high-end trackers, the kind that syncs to the cloud and logs everything. She got it as a gift from some influencer event, probably cheating perks I paid for. She never took it off. Even slept with it on. Said it was good for her REM tracking. So I called the company. I was polite. I was patient. I filed a formal legal request, backed by my lawyer, citing the false abuse allegations and requesting access to any data or footage stored during key dates. They resisted, at first, but the law was on my side. I wasn't looking for her medical history, just footage she recorded voluntarily on a device she wore on her wrist. Footage stored on their cloud. 3 weeks later, I got a drive in the mail. No letter. No warning. Just the footage. I plugged it into my laptop and watched her burn her entire story to the ground. The files weren't just clips. They were timestamps, logs, audio, video. One night she practiced crying in the bathroom mirror, literally rehearsing lines like, "Don't touch me, I'm scared of you," in different tones to see what sounded most believable. Another clip showed her smacking herself in the thigh, then running into the kitchen to fake a scene with bruises. In one, she was on a phone call with her sister, I think, saying, "He'll never know what hit him. I'll get the house, the kid, in full control. He's too soft to fight back." She was wrong. I saved every file, labeled them by date, synced them with her court timeline. My lawyer's jaw hit the floor when he saw them. "You realize," he said, pausing the video where she fake cried on cue, "this isn't just perjury. This is jail time." I know. I didn't want revenge. I wanted my name back. I wanted my son to know the truth when he got old enough to understand. And I wanted to do it clean. So when the court date finally came, and she stood there spinning her lies with a practiced whimper, I didn't flinch. I didn't interrupt. I waited. Then the judge turned to me. "Do you have anything to add, Mr. Malik?" I nodded once. "My client would like to submit new evidence," my lawyer said, already reaching for the drive. The judge waved us forward. Her lawyer rolled his eyes, probably expecting some texts or voicemails. Nothing that could compete with her live, emotional performance. Until the screen lit up. First, a date stamp. Then a shaky video recorded from her wrist, showing her practicing how to cry and talk at the same time. "And then I'll say you shoved me, just like that," she says, adjusting her tone. Is that too much? Maybe less drama, or maybe that's better. The courtroom was still. Frozen. She bolted up from her chair. "This is illegal. He hacked me." The judge raised a hand. "Sit down." Her lawyer's mouth hung open like a puppet with cut strings. We played 4 clips total. That was enough. I watched her break apart in real time. Her face turned white. Her tears stopped. Her whole story collapsed. When the screen went dark, the judge didn't even look at her. "All charges against Mr. Malik are dismissed. Custody order is reversed pending review. This court is considering a motion for perjury and malicious prosecution." Just like that, it was over. I didn't look at her as I walked out. I didn't smile. I didn't say a word. I just held the truth in my hand, a simple little bracelet she wore like armor. The same one that told the world she walked 10,000 steps a day. And every one of those steps walked her straight into her own trap. The moment I stepped out of that courtroom, the air felt different. Colder, but cleaner. People say justice is blind. Maybe it is. But truth? Truth has eyes, and sometimes a camera lens. The bracelet never lied. She did. I didn't go home right away. I didn't even have a home in the traditional sense anymore. My apartment was locked behind her lies, my belongings scattered or gone. But I had something better than a key. I had clarity, and I had a son to fight for. It was late afternoon when I got back to the hotel. Cheap place. Flickering hallway lights. One of those rooms where the AC rattles like it's coughing up dust. But it was mine. My little war bunker. My planning room. I sat down at the desk, pulled out the hard drive again, and stared at it. I didn't press play. I'd already seen enough. I'd watched her laugh while plotting my downfall. I'd heard her giddy voice as she practiced being a victim. I'd seen the blank, cold look in her eyes right before she hit record. The truth wasn't just in the footage. It was in how easily she'd slipped into the role, how casual it all felt to her. She never looked scared, never looked unsure. She was rehearsing, not surviving. And I almost went to jail because of it. I kept thinking about the night she staged it. The night she screamed just loud enough for the neighbors to hear, then dialed 911 before I even realized what was happening. I was standing in the kitchen holding a plate of pasta. She'd tossed the lamp on the floor seconds earlier. "Put it down," she yelled, loud, sharp, like she was in a bad TV show. I remember blinking, confused, still holding the plate. "What?" The cops arrived 6 minutes later. She told them I snapped, that I broke the lamp, threatened her, screamed at our son. I didn't get arrested, but they separated us on the spot. Told me to leave for the night to let things cool off. That's all it took. One lie. One performance. And the system kicked in like a machine with a rusted switch. Now I sat alone in that hotel room, replaying it all. The warnings. The red flags. The nights I convinced myself to stay for the sake of the family. We'd met 5 years ago at a co-working space. She was building some wellness brand, the kind that sells overpriced candles and vague advice on Instagram. I was working IT. Quiet, steady. Boring, maybe, but reliable. She liked that. At first. Said I calmed her energy. She told me about her rough childhood, her trust issues, how men always left her. I didn't run. I stayed. I wanted to be the guy who broke the cycle. Instead, she broke me. I heard a knock. Room service. I opened the door to find a delivery guy holding a small paper bag. Thai food, comfort meal. I nodded, tipped him, closed the door. But the knock had snapped me back. Back to now. Back to the fact that this wasn't over. She'd lost in court, yes. But women like her, liars with no shame, don't just go quietly. They pivot. They regroup. They make phone calls, spin new narratives. And she still had followers. People who believed her. Friends who only heard her version. A social media page filled with inspirational posts about healing from trauma. She wouldn't admit what she did. She'd play the victim to the end. So I opened my laptop and started writing. Not to expose her. Not to go viral. Just to document everything. In my own words, on my terms. The full truth, from beginning to end. For my son. For me. For the day someone else might need proof that not every accusation is real. And not every abuser is a man. 2 days later, I got a call from her lawyer. I almost didn't pick up. But curiosity won. Mr. Malik, he started, voice clipped. I'm calling off record. You can hang up anytime. Go ahead. He paused, then exhaled like someone swallowing pride. She's willing to drop all pending claims if you agree to a mutual no-contact order. No further court. No social media. No press. I didn't speak. She's not in a good place right now, he added, like that was supposed to matter. She's been advised to stay offline. So she wants to vanish quietly, I said. Something like that. I leaned back in the chair. Let the silence stretch. I'll consider it, I said finally, and hung up. That night, I got a DM. A burner account. No profile pic. No posts. Just a message. Heard what happened. You're not the only one. Another message followed. A woman. Said she used to be friends with my ex, claimed she cut ties after seeing how she lied about her last boyfriend too. Said this wasn't the first time she'd accused someone of abuse. Only difference this time. Proof. I asked if she'd testify if needed. She said yes. The system had almost eaten me alive. Almost. But now I was feeding it evidence. One clip at a time. One truth at a time. My next court date wasn't just about clearing my name. It was about flipping the script completely. She tried to erase me with lies. Now I was writing myself back in with facts. And this time, I wasn't backing down. A week after that burner DM, I got the email. Subject line, motion for emergency custody, approved. I read it 3 times, just to be sure. The court had reviewed the footage. Everything was flipped. Temporary full custody was granted to me, and a formal investigation into her conduct was underway. I didn't smile. I just sat there, staring at the screen, hands still. I thought about my son. His backpack. His favorite green hoodie with the shark teeth on the hood. The way he used to wait by the door for me to come home from work. Now, I was going to be the one waiting by the door. But this time, he'd actually come through it. The first supervised transfer was scheduled for Friday, 3 p.m., at a neutral visitation center. She wasn't allowed direct contact. No hugs, no scenes. Just sign in, hand off, walk away. I got there 10 minutes early. Wore a plain shirt. Shaved. Looked like every suburban dad at a PTA meeting, not a man who'd been accused of being a monster. The staff was polite, professional, but I saw it in their faces, the curiosity, the hesitation. They'd read the file. They'd seen the accusations. I nodded, calm. Would you like a coffee while you wait? No, thank you. And then he came through the door. My son. He looked smaller than I remembered, carrying a backpack almost bigger than he was, clinging to a social worker's hand. His eyes scanned the room, then locked on me. Before we go on, have you hit that subscribe button yet? If not, what are you waiting for? We're on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers, and every single one of you makes a difference. Also, tell us in the comments, which city or country are you watching from? We love hearing from our global viewers and connecting across borders. Now, take a breath. Let's continue the story. He froze. And then, in 2 heartbeats, he ran. Straight into my chest. Dad. That one word almost cracked me open. I dropped to one knee, hugged him tight, kissed the top of his head. I missed you, buddy. He didn't say anything for a while. Just held me like he'd been underwater and finally surfaced. And then, softly, Mom said you didn't want me. I swallowed hard. My chest tightened. I always want you, I whispered. Always. We got an hour. 1 hour supervised. But it felt like oxygen. We played Connect 4. Ate goldfish crackers. Talked about cartoons. And then he leaned in, voice low. Why does Mom cry so much? I looked up. The supervisor was nearby, pretending not to listen. I don't know, I said, choosing every word like defusing a bomb. But sometimes people get confused. They say things that aren't true because they're upset. Like when she said you broke the lamp. I blinked. He remembered. She told me to break it, he added. She said it was part of the plan. I nodded slowly, heart thudding in my chest. This kid. He had no idea, he just blew open the whole case. I'm really glad you told me that. Can I come live with you now? Soon, I said. Very soon. When I got back to the hotel, I wrote everything down, word for word. Then I called my lawyer. You're not going to believe what my son just said. I told him everything. He asked if we could record it. Not yet, I said. Let's play it smart. The court already had enough to light a fire under her. But now? Now we had kindling stacked waist high. 3 days later, her sister reached out. I ignored the call. Then came a text. I'm not on her side. I just want to talk. It's about what she did. I hesitated. Then I replied, meet me in public. Daylight. Neutral place. We met at a coffee shop across town. I got there early, watched every car that pulled in. When she arrived, she looked tired. Nervous. No makeup. Hoodie pulled low. She doesn't know I'm here, she said, not even ordering coffee. I nodded. Said nothing. She lied about everything, she said. I know. I helped her. At first. She told me you were dangerous. I believed her. Okay. But I saw the video. You showed it in court, right? My mom told me. Yeah. She's not okay, she said. She's been like this since high school. She gets caught in her lies, then doubles down. She can't stop. I've seen it ruin relationships, jobs, everything. But this? What she did to you? To your kid? She shook her head. I'll testify, she said. I let that sink in. Another witness. Another domino. She handed me a folder before leaving. Screenshots, she said. Texts between me and her. Voice messages. You'll want to hear the one from the night she called the cops. She walked out. I opened the folder. The voice memo was dated 2 hours before the incident. I pressed play. Her voice, drunk and laughing. Watch this. He's going to freak when I throw the lamp. I'll cry, call 911. Instant custody. I closed my eyes. This woman, she didn't just want to win. She wanted to erase me. Back in court a week later, we didn't have to say much. The judge had seen the new footage, read the transcript of my son's supervised conversation, and reviewed the sister's testimony. Her lawyer didn't even show up. The court issued a full reversal. Sole custody, mine. Restraining order, against her. She wasn't even allowed to post about me online. Her house of cards had collapsed. The courtroom was quiet when the ruling came down. I didn't look at her. She didn't cry this time. Didn't flinch. Just stood there like she couldn't believe the spotlight was gone. When we walked out, my son held my hand. Are we going home now? I nodded. We are. He squeezed my fingers. Can we get pizza? Any kind you want. We stepped into the light. Free. Not just from her lies, but from the version of myself I had to be to survive them. The first night back with my son was quiet. Not in a peaceful, candlelit, movie scene kind of way, just quiet. Like we were two people trying to remember what normal felt like. I made spaghetti, even though I'm not good at it. Overcooked the noodles. Forgot to add salt. He said it was perfect and ate 2 plates. We watched Toy Story 2, and he fell asleep halfway through on the couch, legs tangled in a blanket, clutching the same stuffed Dino he did since he was 3. I sat there next to him long after the credits rolled, listening to the hum of the fridge and the occasional car outside. My phone was face down. My emails were ignored. My court paperwork sat untouched on the kitchen table. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was walking on a wire over a fire pit. I just felt tired. Not physically, not even emotionally. Soul tired. Like I'd been holding my breath for so long, I forgot what breathing felt like. I didn't tell him everything. He was too young to know the full scope. But I answered what I could. Why did Mom say you were bad? Sometimes, people tell stories that make them feel safe, even when they're not true. Is she still mad? I don't know. But we don't have to worry about that right now. Okay. He didn't press. Kids are smart like that. Smarter than we give them credit for. He understood more than I wanted him to. But he also knew how to let it go for now. He played with his toy cars the next morning like nothing had happened, like he hadn't spent months being pulled between 2 war zones. I envied that. Her social media went dark. No more healing journey quotes. No more filtered selfies captioned with vague Bible verses. She vanished the way people do when truth catches up to them, quick and silent. But the fallout didn't end with the court ruling. 2 weeks later, I got a call from her old wellness brand manager, a woman I'd met maybe twice before, always polite, always distant. We're cleaning up the mess, she said, blunt. She used company funds for legal fees, told investors she was being stalked and needed protection. It was all lies. I didn't ask how they found out. I already knew. Truth leaks, eventually. People started connecting dots, questioning timelines, pulling back curtains she'd stapled in place with drama and manipulation. I'm sorry, the manager said before hanging up. We should have seen it sooner. I didn't say anything. What was the point? They believed her until they couldn't afford to. I found a place to live. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, small backyard, cracked tiles in the hallway. But it was solid. Ours. I let my son pick the paint for his room, bright green, like alien slime. I hung up his drawings on the fridge. Bought a used dining table and a secondhand couch. Slowly, it started to feel like a home. And I started to feel like a father again, not just a defendant. But I didn't forget. People like her don't fade. They find new angles, new scripts. They twist themselves into victims again, somewhere else, for someone else. That thought used to keep me up at night. But not anymore. Because now I had something she'd never have again. Credibility. Real, earned, courtroom documented credibility. She burned hers to ash. Then came the podcast request. Some online show, not huge, but growing, all about false accusations and family court reform. They'd seen the public court records. A listener had emailed them a link to the case. They wanted to interview me. At first, I almost deleted the email. I didn't want to be that guy. I wasn't looking for fame. I wasn't trying to milk tragedy for likes. But then I remembered that DM, the one that said, "You're not the only one." What if someone else needed to hear it? What if someone out there was sitting in a car, crying, thinking their life was over because someone lied? So I said yes. The host's name was Ellis. Soft voice. Sharp questions. No theatrics. He let me talk. I told the story, start to finish. From the night she threw the lamp to the court date where I played the footage. I kept it clean. No name calling. No dramatics. Just facts. Evidence. And the voice memo. I played a snippet. The laughter. The line. He'll freak when I throw the lamp. Ellis didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then, that's chilling. Yeah. What would you say to people who still believe her? I didn't hesitate. I don't care if they believe me. I care that the court did. I care that my son knows the truth. The episode went viral. Not instantly, but quietly, organically. People shared it, commented, sent emails. Some hated me, said I was trying to cancel a woman for having trauma. Others wrote paragraphs thanking me. One man said he'd been in jail for a week on a similar false report. No footage, no witnesses, just her word against his. He said my story gave him hope for his appeal. I read that email twice, and I cried. Her retaliation came exactly 1 month later. Not directly. No threats. No emails. Just a post from a new Instagram handle. Private account. No photos, just a black icon. But the bio said enough. Believe survivors. Even when the court doesn't. She hadn't tagged me. Hadn't said my name. But the implication was loud. The caption read, "Abusers hide behind lawyers. Victims heal in silence." Comments flooded in. Friends of hers. Strangers. Sympathy addicts. "Stay strong, sis. We believe you. She's so brave." And then, one that stuck with me. My ex did the same thing. Gaslit me until I looked crazy. She wasn't just playing victim. She was recruiting. I took screenshots. Archived everything. Then I logged off. Let her spin her little web. Because this time, I didn't need to prove anything. I'd already won where it counted. And the court wasn't the only arena that mattered anymore. My son had started asking real questions. The kind that come late at night when he's supposed to be asleep. Why did she do that? I didn't sugarcoat it. Because she was scared of losing. And sometimes, when people are scared, they make bad choices. "Do you hate her?" "No," I said, and I meant it. "But I don't trust her." He nodded, like that made sense. Like it was enough. And maybe it was. Because he rolled over, pulled his blanket up, and went to sleep without another word. The last time I saw her was at a grocery store. Random, stupid moment. I was in the cereal aisle. My son was at his mom's for a short, supervised visit. The court allowed 2 a month. We passed each other by the granola bars. She looked rough, pale, hollow eyes. No makeup, not even a fake smile. She didn't say a word. Neither did I. Just kept walking. She was holding a single basket. Nothing in it. I didn't look back. Not once. You'd think revenge would feel like fireworks. It doesn't. It feels like quiet. Like space to breathe. Like finally getting to live without constantly checking over your shoulder. That's the best part. Not the courtroom win. Not the podcast episode. Not even the apology text I got from people who doubted me. It's the silence. The clean break. The small moments, like brushing my son's teeth while he makes dinosaur noises, or making pancakes on a Sunday morning and not worrying someone's watching for something to twist against me. That's the real win. Not proving she lied, but knowing I never had to lie once. People think once the court signs the papers and the lies get exposed, the story ends. It doesn't. That's just where the cleanup starts. It's the mornings after, the ones where you sit at the edge of your bed and realize no one's trying to take your kid away today. No surprise court summons. No cold silences from people who once said they had your back. No second-guessing every word you speak, just in case someone's recording. That's when the real healing begins. But healing is boring. No one makes movies about men quietly unpacking their trauma while folding laundry or Googling how to explain PTSD to a 6-year-old. No dramatic music. No big speeches. Just moments. Small, stubborn, human moments. It started with a chair. A cheap armchair I bought at a garage sale down the street. Faded blue, missing a wheel, smelled faintly of dog. I carried it up 2 flights of stairs by myself and wedged it into the corner of the living room. That chair became my spot. Morning coffee, late night reading, staring out the window when I couldn't sleep. It was nothing special, but it was mine. No one else had ever cried in it, lied in it, screamed in it, or accused me of being a monster in it. Sometimes, that's all you need. A place that doesn't carry a shadow. My son started drawing us again. Little stick figures holding hands. Big, smiling faces. Sometimes he'd draw 3 people, me, him, and a shadowy shape with XS for eyes. He said that was the mean version of mom, not real mom. I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't correct him. Kids process in strange, honest ways. I let him. One night, He drew a house. Ours. A crooked little square with a chimney, smoke curling like scribbled pasta. He labeled it safe. I taped it to the fridge. Didn't cry. Almost. My first real panic attack came out of nowhere. Middle of a grocery run. Pushing the cart. Thinking about what kind of cereal my son liked this week. Then boom. Chest tight. Ears ringing. Lights too bright. The aisle spinning like I'd stepped into a fun house. I dropped the basket and walked out. Left everything behind. Sat in the car with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. No one tells you surviving someone else's lies doesn't erase the damage. It just stops the bleeding. The bruises still form. They're just invisible now. I started seeing a therapist the next week. Best decision I made all year. Her name was Carmen. No, not my ex. The therapist. Carmen wore oversized glasses and didn't blink when I told her everything. She didn't call me brave or ask how I felt about being falsely accused. She just said, "You were psychologically ambushed. Now you have to rebuild your internal perimeter." That phrase stuck with me. Internal perimeter. Like I was a city that got invaded and torched, but the walls were still mine to rebuild. So that's what we did. Brick by brick. She made me write lists, not about her, but about me. Who I was before the war. Who I wanted to be now. I wrote calm, trustworthy, present, honest. Not once did I write safe. I already had that. I just wanted to feel real again. Dating? Yeah. Eventually. I didn't plan on it. Didn't chase it. Definitely didn't jump on an app. But one afternoon at a bookstore, the kind that still smells like paper and dust and old ink, I met someone. She was standing in the self-help section, flipping through a copy of The Body Keeps the Score. I made some dumb joke about how I'd rather the body forget a few things. She smiled, rolled her eyes, asked what I'd recommend instead. We talked. She wasn't a therapist or a life coach or a spiritual healer. Just a teacher. Smart. Grounded. Kind. We met for coffee a week later. Then again. I didn't dump everything on her. Not right away. Not even in the first month. But when I did, she listened. Didn't flinch. Didn't ask if there was more to the story. She just said, "Sounds like you survived a hurricane that someone else kept telling you was just a breeze." I laughed harder than I had in a year. We didn't rush anything. Still aren't. But she taught me something no courtroom ever could. The difference between peace and silence. They feel similar until you learn one of them's earned. The last time my ex contacted me was through her lawyer. Another soft-serve email, sugar-coated in concern. She wanted to co-parent more directly. Said she was working on herself. Wanted to rebuild trust. I didn't reply. My lawyer did. 2 sentences. All communication must remain through legal channels. Per the court's standing order, direct contact is not authorized. She didn't try again. I think about what almost happened sometimes. How close I came to losing everything. How fragile the truth can be when someone decides to kill it with confidence and crocodile tears. How the system, even when it works, still drags innocent people through glass just to reach the finish line. I didn't just survive her lies. I outlived them. And now? Now I live loud in the quiet. Mornings making pancakes for my son. Afternoons laughing with someone who knows I'm not a project to fix. Evenings in that worn-down blue chair, watching the sun crawl across the walls. I'm not broken. I'm not a headline. I'm a father. I'm a man who got burned and didn't turn to ash. And somewhere out there, she's probably still rewriting her version of the story, still painting herself as a wounded phoenix. But this time, no one's watching. Because the spotlight moved on. And I never needed it anyway. It was a Tuesday when the letter came. Plain white envelope. No return address. Tucked between bills and an ad for car insurance. I almost missed it. I opened it in the kitchen while stirring soup. 1 page. Typed. No signature. You think it's over. It's not. You're not the only one who knows how to keep receipts. I read it twice. Then again. The paper shook slightly in my hand. Not from fear, from anger. I didn't recognize the font. Didn't recognize the wording. But I recognized the weight of it. The voice between the lines. It had her fingerprints all over it. the way she hid behind vague threats and veiled language. She wasn't done. I scanned the letter, forwarded it to my lawyer, then tucked the original into a file marked post-case contacts. He replied within the hour. No actionable threat, but document everything. We'll submit it with the rest. I didn't tell my son. Didn't even let it show on my face. That night, we read a book about astronauts and made a pillow fort. I let him fall asleep with the flashlight still on. But later, when the house was still, I sat in the dark and asked myself the question I never wanted to revisit. What if she tries again? Because people like her, they don't break clean. They don't disappear. They slip in through cracks, wait for a weak moment, and then try to rewrite history. I'd already won the war. But maybe this wasn't over. 2 days later, she filed a motion. Nothing bold. Nothing overt. Just a request for a review of custody terms. She claimed to be in therapy. Claimed to have a new job. Claimed to be deeply committed to co-parenting. My lawyer rolled his eyes. She's testing the waters. Don't respond emotionally. I'm not emotional, I said. I'm ready. Court again. Not the full courtroom this time. Just a small hearing, her lawyer, mine, the judge, and me. She didn't look at me when I walked in. She wore gray. No makeup. Hair tied back. Minimalism, her new costume. Her lawyer stood and started painting a picture of growth and reconciliation. Used phrases like emotional maturity and parental equity. Then she spoke. I'm not proud of how things happened, she said. But I'm trying to move forward. For our son. No apology. Not even a mention of the footage. No acknowledgement of the lies, the staged scenes, the perjury. Just that fake calm she wore when she needed something. I said nothing. My lawyer stood. Straightened his notes. Read off the updated timeline, the recordings, the court's prior findings, the supervised visit reports, the threatening letter. Then he handed the judge a folder. Inside it, screenshots of her burner account, her Believe Survivors campaign, her quiet smear campaign, still active behind a different username. The judge didn't say anything for a long time. Then he looked at her. Ma'am, this court finds no reason to revise the current custody arrangement. In fact, he flipped through the pages. Eyes narrowed. We will be reviewing your recent online activity for potential violations of the standing order. She blinked once. A flicker of something broke in her face. Maybe shock. Maybe just irritation. Your motion is denied, the judge finished. Further attempts to manipulate this court will be sanctioned. You're excused. Bang. Over. Again. Outside, the air was sharp. I stood on the steps and watched her walk to her car. She didn't look back. This time, I wasn't afraid she would. I wasn't angry, either. Just done. She wanted attention, even negative. I wasn't giving her any. Not anymore. Back home, I threw the letter into the fire pit. Watched the edges curl. The ink bubble. The threat vanish. My son was inside, doing math homework, legs swinging off the couch. The new girl, yeah, we were saying girlfriend now, was in the kitchen, washing apples for a snack. Life wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was honest. Solid. Real. I'd built something that couldn't be torn down by one more performance, one more courtroom monologue, one more vague threat in a white envelope. She could write whatever story she wanted. But mine? Mine was already in motion. And it didn't include her. I didn't expect the email from the DA's office. Subject line. Request to discuss prior case, potential witness support. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Some administrative check-in, maybe a file being closed. But when I opened it, the body of the message was short and clear. We're preparing charges on a new domestic abuse case. The defendant is citing a pattern of false allegations by the complainant, who matches the subject in your prior trial. We'd like to request your cooperation. I reread the line. A pattern. Someone else. I didn't reply right away. I stared at the screen, thinking about all the times I had begged people to just believe me, the nights I'd rehearsed calm words in front of a mirror because yelling meant violent and silence meant cold. Now someone else was trapped in her game. And this time, I wasn't the only witness. I was the warning. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. I met with the prosecutor the day before. She was sharp, mid-40s, no nonsense. Carried a file thicker than a phone book. She tried the same thing, the prosecutor said. Nearly identical pattern. Physical scene staged, dramatic 911 call, claim of being in fear for her life. The footage from your case already raised red flags. I nodded. Said nothing. She didn't think we'd connect the dots. Most of them don't. Does the guy have kids? I asked. Yeah. 1. 5 years old. She's trying for full custody. Of course she was. When I entered the courthouse the next day, it didn't feel like last time. I wasn't the accused. I wasn't here to defend. I was here to help someone else not fall where I almost did. The courtroom was smaller. Tighter. Just a preliminary hearing, but you could feel the weight in the air. The defendant sat quietly beside his lawyer, a lean man in a wrinkled suit, fingers tapping on the table. His eyes met mine once. Not with desperation. Just quiet hope. He didn't need a speech. He needed proof. I was the proof. I took the stand. Swore in. Answered every question clearly. Truthfully. No dramatics. I told them about the lamp. The fake bruises. The staged footage. The voice memo. I said her name out loud, calmly, while the court clerk typed every syllable. I described her tactics, her patterns, the way she twisted perception like it was string around her finger. The judge listened. The prosecutor nodded. Even the defense lawyer looked rattled, like this wasn't part of the script. When I stepped down, no one clapped. They just believed me. Because the truth was no longer a question. It was evidence. Outside, the man I testified for caught up with me by the vending machines. Didn't say much. Just extended his hand. Thank you, he said. I shook it. You hang in there. Stay clean. Stay smart. He nodded. His voice was quiet. Feels like I might actually get to see my kid again. You will. We didn't exchange numbers. Didn't need to. There are some connections built in fire. Unspoken. Unbreakable. You know when someone's walked through the same hell and refused to burn. That night, I told my son I had a work thing at court. He asked if it was about Mom. No, I said. Not directly. Was someone else in trouble? I nodded. Someone needed help, and I knew how to help them. He tilted his head, thinking. Then, are you like a hero now? I smiled. No capes. Just receipts. He laughed. The sound of it was better than any courtroom win. A few weeks later, I got another message, this time from a woman. Early 30s. Teacher. Said she'd heard the podcast episode. Said she had a brother going through the same thing. I used to believe his ex, no questions asked, she wrote. But after hearing your story, I listened to him. Really listened. I sat with that message for a while. Because I remembered what it felt like to not be listened to. And how dangerous that silence can be. I didn't become an advocate. Didn't start a blog. Didn't chase clout. But when people found me, when someone said, "Can I ask you something about your case?" I answered. I sent documents. I explained process. I offered perspective. Because that's what I wish someone had done for me when I was drowning. Just one person who'd been through it and lived to tell the story. Now I was that person. And I wasn't wasting it. It's strange. The same truth that nearly destroyed me is now what holds me up. Not because it's pretty, but because it's proven. Stamped. Dated. Played in courtrooms. Written into rulings. That kind of truth is bulletproof. And the more I share it, the more I see what my ex never understood. You can't control people forever. Eventually, facts get louder than fear. It was raining the night she came to the door. I know, that sounds like a cliche, but it's what happened. Full tilt downpour. Thunder rolling like God was dragging furniture across the sky. I was home, reading on the couch, my son asleep in his bedroom. The world was finally quiet again. Then the doorbell rang. I checked the time, 9:43 p.m. Too late for packages. Too late for anything casual. I stood slowly, felt the weight of that moment before I even reached the peephole. And then I saw her, standing there, hair soaked, arms crossed. That same exhausted expression she used to wear when lies started closing in on her. Except this time, there was no stage, no audience. Just her and me, and a storm that couldn't hide what was left between us. I didn't open the door right away. I just stared at her through the glass for a minute. She didn't knock again, didn't shout, didn't cry, just waited. So I opened the door. 3 inches. Just enough to speak through. Leave. I just want to talk, she said. You've had plenty of time to talk. I'm not here to fight. Or lie. I didn't say anything. Rain dripped from her chin, pooling at her feet. She looked thin, paler, like she'd been living in grayscale since the verdict. You ruined yourself, I said quietly. Don't come here hoping I'll help you pick up the pieces. I'm not. She took a breath, then reached into her coat. I stepped back. Reflex. But she just pulled out an envelope. Thick. Sealed. No markings. This is everything, she said. The real version. I wrote it all down. I don't expect forgiveness. I wanted you to have it. Just in case something happens. I narrowed my eyes. Like what? She shook her head. Don't play this like a movie, I said. You're not the tragic villain. You're the reason a 6-year-old boy almost grew up believing his dad was a monster. I know. For a moment, her voice cracked. Just a little. But I'd seen that act before. More than once. This doesn't fix anything, I said. I'm not trying to fix it. Then why are you here? She looked down. I don't know who I am anymore. That makes 2 of us, I said, and shut the door. I didn't open the envelope right away. I put it in the drawer next to my bed. And for the first time, I didn't obsess over it. Because I didn't need her words anymore. I had my own. I had my son's drawings on the fridge. My voice in court records. The sound of laughter in the living room that didn't come with suspicion attached. Still, a few days later, curiosity won. I opened it. Typed pages. Dated. Signed at the end. No begging. No manipulation. Just confession. Line after line of raw detail. Her planning. Her panic. How it spiraled. How part of her believed the lie while saying it. How hating me made her feel in control. How she used victimhood as power because she didn't know how else to feel safe. The last paragraph stayed with me. You were never violent. Not once. But I needed the world to think you were. Because I couldn't survive being the villain in my own story. I thought if I made you look worse, I'd look better. But all I did was erase myself. I read it twice. Then I folded the letter and put it in a lockbox with the court transcripts. Not for her. Not even for me. But maybe one day for our son. If he ever needed to know exactly what happened. All of it. No spin. No courtroom filter. Just the truth, in black and white. The next few months were quieter. Peaceful, even. I taught my son how to ride a bike without training wheels. Took him to a science fair. Helped him build a volcano that actually exploded in the kitchen and ruined my best socks. We started Friday night, boys-only dinners. Frozen pizza and cartoons. He called it dad time. He'd say it like it was sacred. And in a way, it was. He stopped asking about her. That scared me more than anything. Because I didn't want him to forget. Not forever. Just not remember the wrong version. So one night, I told him the basics. The truth. Not the pain, not the courtroom, not the lies. Just this. Sometimes people hurt others because they're hurting inside. But that's not your fault. And it doesn't mean they never loved you. It just means they didn't know how to do it right. He nodded. Didn't ask more. That was enough. People keep asking if I've forgiven her. The truth? I don't think forgiveness is a door you walk through. I think it's a hallway. You walk a little each day. Some days you make it further. Some days you sit down and say, screw this. But you keep going. Or try to. Forgiveness isn't for her. It's for the part of me that still wakes up at 3 a.m. sometimes, thinking I'm back in that courtroom, trying to prove I'm not the villain in a story someone else wrote. That part deserves peace. Even if she never does. One night, long after our usual bedtime, my son came into my room holding his blanket and a question. Dad? Yeah, but are we okay now? I pulled him into the bed beside me, held him close. We've always been okay, I said. We just had to wait for the rest of the world to catch up. He smiled, closed his eyes. And in that moment, I realized the war was truly over. Not because I beat her, but because I didn't become her. The day my son asked, did Mom go to jail? I knew we'd crossed into new territory. He was 8 now, old enough to read between lines, old enough to remember more than I wanted him to, and more importantly, old enough to start asking the real questions. I didn't lie. No, I said. She didn't. But she lied to the police. And to the judge. She did. He paused, thinking. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, sorting through a box of Legos like the question wasn't about to change both of us forever. Why didn't they lock her up? I sat down across from him. Because how do you explain that to a kid? That sometimes the system protects the wrong person. That courtrooms don't always equal justice. That adults lie and walk away free if they cry convincingly enough and say the right buzzwords. That his father, the man folding his socks and packing his school lunches, had nearly lost him because of a smile and a stage bruise. So I gave him the only truth he was ready for. Because the court decided taking you away from her was enough. He nodded. Quiet. Then, good. Just like that. No anger. No vengeance. Just clarity. Kids are honest in ways grown-ups forget how to be. Later that night, I pulled out the lockbox. The one with everything. The court transcripts, the video files, the voice memo, the letter she left on my doorstep. I didn't open it. Just held it for a second. Then I added something new. A printed photo of us, taken last weekend at the park. He's holding a slice of pizza bigger than his head. I'm mid-laugh, eyes closed. Real moment. No filters. No shadows. That's what I want him to find one day when he's older. When he's ready. When the full story lands on his lap, I want him to know this. It didn't end in court. It ended at peace. A few weeks later, I got invited to speak at a panel. Topic: false allegations in the family court system. Part of me wanted to say no. I didn't want to relive it all on stage. Didn't want to be the cautionary tale, the man who almost lost everything. I was tired of being the guy who survived the lie. But the other part of me, the part that still remembered sleeping in my car, begging a judge just to listen, that part said, you owe it to the next guy. So I said yes. The event was small. Maybe 50 people in a community center auditorium. Plastic chairs. Lukewarm coffee. Nothing glamorous. But the crowd was silent when I spoke. I told them about her lies. Her planning. The way she weaponized the system like it was a loaded gun. I didn't shout. Didn't dramatize. I just told the truth. And when I finished, a man in the front row stood up. He was maybe 60. Heavy set. Gray beard. My brother died in jail last year, he said. Same thing happened to him. No one believed him. Thank you for saying it out loud. That's when I realized something else. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming space. Telling the story that almost got buried beneath someone else's fiction. Making sure people knew that guilty until proven innocent isn't just a phrase, it's a sentence. After that, the emails started coming. Quiet ones. From men. From women, too. Teachers. Soldiers. Dads. Sons. Sisters of men who'd been erased by accusation. Some had evidence. Some didn't. All of them had the same ache in their words. I don't know how to prove I'm not a monster. I told them what Carmen, my therapist, once told me. You don't need to convince the world. You need to protect your story. That's when I started writing. Not just court statements or private notes. I wrote a book. Titled it. Her story was beautiful. Mine was true. I didn't make her the villain. I didn't even use her name. I just laid it all out. The build-up. The breakdown. The recovery. Not for pity. Not for followers. For the ones still stuck inside it. For the man in the hotel room wondering if life will ever feel real again. It got picked up by a small publisher. Nothing fancy, but enough to get it in people's hands. And then one day I got a message, short, anonymous. I read your book. I was planning to kill myself next week. I'm not anymore. That's it. That's the reason. All the pain. All the public wreckage. All the courtroom humiliation. Worth it. Because someone's father is still alive because I refuse to shut up. The truth has a weird habit. It echoes. Even when people stop listening, it keeps bouncing. And one day, years from now, maybe my son will be a man standing on a stage, telling people about how his dad didn't quit, didn't sink, didn't become what the world said he was. He'll say, they tried to bury him. Then he'll smile and add, but they didn't know he was a seed. The last time I saw her face, it wasn't in court or behind glass. It was in a waiting room. Children's hospital. My son had taken a nasty fall off the monkey bars, fractured his wrist. We rushed in. Hours of scans, paperwork, a fiberglass cast, the works. And as I was walking out with him, hand in hand, arm in a sling, there she was, seated in the corner, wearing scrubs, a hospital badge clipped to her collar. I froze. So did she. We locked eyes across that sterile, overlit hallway. Her face said everything. Not here. Not now. Not with him. But it was too late. My son saw her. His body stiffened. He didn't let go of my hand, but he looked up at me like he wasn't sure what he was supposed to feel. I bent down beside him. You okay? I asked. He nodded slowly. I looked over at her. She stood halfway now, unsure of whether to approach or retreat. She looked like she wanted to say something, but also like she didn't deserve to anymore. I turned back to my son. That's your choice, I said quietly. You don't have to speak if you don't want to. He thought for a second, then turned away. That was it. No drama. No confrontation. Just done. She sat back down. We walked out. In the car, he asked one question. Why does she work at a hospital? I didn't have a simple answer for that one. How do you explain that people who cause damage sometimes try to fix it in others? That maybe guilt had pulled her into a job where she could pretend to be good again? I just said, she's trying to help people. He looked out the window. Did she help us? I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. No, I said. She didn't. He didn't ask anything else. Weeks passed. That brief, quiet encounter hung in the air like the last breath of a storm that had already passed. But then came the letter. Again. This time, hand-delivered to my lawyer. Not from her. From her mother. I didn't even know the woman was still alive. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even defensive. It was a request. She's not well. She's lost everything. We don't know who she is anymore. But she keeps talking about your son. About wanting to apologize. About closure. Closure. That word again. People love throwing it around like it's a door you can slam shut once and for all. But some doors don't get to close. They just stay open like scars. I asked my son what he wanted. He was older now. 10, going on 20. Sharp. Quiet. His mother hadn't tried contact in years, not after the final court order. I don't know, he said. Maybe. If you're there too. So we arranged it. Supervised. 1 hour. No touching. No dramatics. We met at a private mediation office, the kind with cameras on every corner and lawyers in the next room. When she walked in, she looked like a ghost of herself. No makeup. No swagger. Just bones and regret, wrapped in a cardigan. She didn't speak right away. She sat down across from him and looked at me first, as if asking permission. I gave none. I just sat still. She turned back to the boy she hadn't seen in 4 years. You look just like him, she said softly. My son didn't answer. She fumbled for something in her bag, pulled out a photo. An old one. Him, as a baby, drooling on her shoulder. I kept this, she said, even when I didn't keep anything else. Still, he said nothing. She looked down. I was sick, she whispered. That's not an excuse. It's just the truth. I was sick and selfish and scared of becoming invisible. And I did terrible things to your dad. Things I can't take back. Tears came. Real ones, maybe. But he didn't react. Just listened. She looked at him, eyes shaking. I know I don't get to ask this, but I'm sorry. Silence. The room held its breath. Then my son asked, calmly, Do you want me to forgive you? She blinked, caught off guard. Yes, she said. I mean, only if you want to. He looked at her with a kind of focus that seemed far too grown for his age. I'm still thinking about it, he said. But you don't get to rush me. I felt something heavy lift. Not from me, from him. He stood, looked at me. Can we go? I nodded. And just like that, he turned and walked out of her shadow for good. In the car, he didn't cry. He just stared at the window again. She looked sad, he said. She is. Do you think she meant it? I paused. Then, yeah, I think she meant it. Doesn't mean it changes anything. He nodded once. And that was the last we spoke of it. There's no bow on this story. No sudden turn of grace or redemption arc. She's still out there, carrying whatever weight she finally decided to feel. Maybe it'll change her. Maybe it won't. But that's not my story anymore. I've done the work. I've raised the kid. I've told the truth. And for once, I'm not looking back to see if anyone believes me. Because the only person who ever really needed to was sitting in the back seat that day, choosing the silence and breaking the cycle. People always ask me why I'm so calm, why I don't get angry easy, why I don't raise my voice, even when someone deserves it, why I'm always listening more than talking. The truth? I learned from the best. My name's Eli. I'm 17 now, graduating next year, applying to pre-law, if you can believe that. Full ride at 2 schools already, thanks to grades, a couple scholarships, and a personal essay that made one admissions officer cry on a Zoom call. The essay was titled, "My Father Didn't Raise His Voice, He Raised Me." It wasn't about my mom. Not really. It was about what it means to tell the truth when no one wants to hear it. What it means to survive being erased. What it means to stand in a courtroom and not scream when the world calls you dangerous, and you have to prove you're not, with evidence, not emotion. That was my dad. And I watched him carry that weight like it was a backpack made of bricks every single day, just so I wouldn't have to. People talk about justice like it's clean. It's not. It's long, messy, unfair. It gets it wrong. And when it finally gets it right, no one claps. You just go home and try to remember who you were before you had to fight for your name. I remember watching my dad make pancakes at 6 a.m. on court days. Still showing up. Still cracking jokes. Still packing my lunch like the system hadn't nearly stolen his kid out from under him. He never once called my mom names. He never made me pick sides. He just told the truth. And told it again. And again. Until someone finally listened. I remember the last time I saw my mom. I was 10. She was pale, trembling, saying sorry in a room where cameras recorded every word. I didn't cry. Neither did she. That was the moment I understood what real consequences look like. Not prison. Not screaming. Just having to face someone you tried to destroy and seeing they're still standing. Still kind. Still whole. That's what killed the lie. Now I volunteer with a support group. Mostly kids like me. Boys caught in custody battles. Girls blamed for loving the wrong parent. Kids who watch the adults around them lose control, lie to police, and weaponize the system. I don't give them speeches. I just listen. And sometimes I tell them what my dad told me the night I saw him burn the last letter she ever sent. You're not what happened to you. You're what you choose to become after. People ask if I'll ever talk to her again. Maybe. One day. But it'll be on my terms. In my time. No audience. No tears. Just 2 people sitting across from each other. One who broke everything, and one who survived it. And when she asks, "Did you hate me?" I'll say, "No, because I didn't grow up in hate. I grew up in truth." This story doesn't end with revenge. It doesn't end with redemption either. It ends with a man who was supposed to break, choosing not to. And a kid who was supposed to grow up confused, becoming the clearest version of himself. I'm not broken. I'm not bitter. I'm my father's son. And we don't raise our voices. We raise the truth. 2 years passed before I saw my ex's name in public again. It was in a local news article, tucked at the bottom of a digital page no one really scrolls to. Headline read, "Hospital employee terminated for ethics violation." I didn't even need to click. But I did. The article didn't name her directly, just said she falsified patient notes. Small lie, big consequences. Maybe she thought no one would notice. Maybe she believed her own version again, the way she always did. That's the thing with people like her. They don't fall all at once. They unravel, thread by thread, in rooms without witnesses. I didn't smile when I read it. Didn't feel triumph. Just quiet confirmation. You can fake anything, fear, bruises, heartbreak, but the truth waits. It doesn't chase. It watches. And one day, it catches up. It wasn't my job to destroy her. Life did the heavy lifting. All I had to do was survive long enough to watch the mask peel off. That same week, my son got a letter in the mail. No return address. He held it like it was a lit match. We sat at the kitchen table in silence. He didn't ask if he could open it. He asked if he should. That's how I knew he was ready to decide things on his own. I didn't answer for him. He opened it. Inside, 3 sentences. Her handwriting. I still think about you. I'm sorry I hurt you. I hope you're okay. No pressure. No manipulation. Just soft. Empty. He folded it neatly and handed it to me. You want to keep it? I asked. No, he said. It's not for me anymore. And just like that, he gave the past back to the past. Senior year brought a lot of unexpected things. College visits. First real heartbreak. A tattoo he designed himself. Small, just behind his arm. A simple line of text. He didn't raise his voice. He raised me. I didn't know he was going to get it. He came home, lifted his sleeve, and said, "Surprise." I stood there, silent, then hugged him harder than I had in years. He didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. He let himself be held. That's when I knew the damage had stopped traveling through him. The cycle, the one she tried to pass on, it ended with me. Graduation came fast. Caps, gowns, camera flashes. Speeches no one listened to. And then my son, my quiet, unshakable boy, stepped up to give the student address. He didn't tell me he'd been chosen. Didn't ask for help writing it. He just stood in front of 1,000 people, cleared his throat, and spoke like someone twice his age. They say experience is the best teacher, but I don't think that's true. I think the best teacher is someone who lives the truth, even when it costs them everything. My dad didn't teach me by preaching. He taught me by surviving, by protecting, by refusing to break. He taught me that love doesn't raise its voice, it holds the line. I owe everything I am to a man no one believed until they had no choice. I didn't cry at court. Didn't cry when I lost my job, my reputation, my name. But I cried that day, in the front row, surrounded by people who had once whispered about me, doubted me, distanced themselves. Now they stood to applaud my son. And, through him, me. There's a certain silence that only comes after survival. Not the awkward silence between people. Not the heavy silence after a fight. This silence is cleaner. Still. The kind of quiet that comes when everything chaotic is burned away, and all that's left is what actually matters. That's the silence I woke up to the morning my son moved out. College dorm. 2 cities away. A small school, quiet campus. He packed his things himself, made a checklist, double-checked his documents. No drama. No last-minute tears. Just 2 men in a driveway at sunrise, loading a trunk with books and memories. He didn't say much on the way. Didn't have to. We'd already had all the hard conversations. He knew what he came from, and he knew what he wasn't going to carry forward. When we got to the dorm, he unpacked fast, tossed his bag on the bed, arranged his desk, hung one photo, just one, above his nightstand. It was us. Him at 13, hoodie too big, me standing behind him, hands on his shoulders. Both of us smiling. Real smiles. That photo was taken 2 weeks after my name had been officially cleared in the final court summary. I remember that day. We'd eaten burgers on the hood of my car and laughed so hard soda came out his nose. That was the first time I really believed we were free. He turned to me before I left and said something I'll carry with me until the day I stop breathing. Most people teach with words. You taught with silence. I didn't understand at first. Then he added, you didn't shout. You didn't scream. You just stood in the fire and stayed whole. I swallowed hard. Nodded once. Thank you, I said. He hugged me tight. Longer than he ever had. And then I left. Not broken. Not afraid. Just proud. And alone, in the way a man is alone when he's finished something important. Driving back, I passed a billboard. It wasn't a sign, not really. But it hit me like one. Big white letters. Truth doesn't expire. It waits. I pulled over and stared at it. Laughed a little. Yeah, that part's true. Back home, the house felt bigger. Quieter. But not empty. Just ready. I sat on the same couch I'd once slept on during the worst nights. Picked up a worn-out folder full of everything. Her letter, the court files, the footage, all of it. And for the first time, I threw it all out. Every last page. Not out of bitterness. Not out of some self-righteous declaration of victory. But because I didn't need it anymore. The story was no longer mine to protect. It belonged to him now. And he was telling it better than I ever could. I still see her sometimes. Not in person. Not in court. In memory. In the quiet seconds when I tie my shoes, or rinse a coffee cup, or hear a certain laugh that sounds like hers used to sound, before everything. She's not a monster in my mind anymore. She's just gone. And that's worse, in a way. Scarier. Because monsters are obvious. But what she was believable. Until she wasn't. There's something no one tells you about surviving this kind of thing. You don't walk away feeling invincible. You walk away feeling used up. Like you left parts of yourself in every room you had to defend yourself in. You forget how to breathe with both lungs. You look over your shoulder for months, even years, just out of habit. But then, slowly, something shifts. You stop needing to explain yourself. You stop rehearsing your truth. Because now, people listen. Because now, your son is grown. He knows who his father is. Not because you told him. Because you showed him. I kept one thing from the whole story. Not a letter. Not a court document. A voicemail. It's my son. Left it for me on my birthday this year. Hey, old man. Just wanted to say, thanks. Not for surviving it. For making sure I didn't have to. I play it sometimes when the house is too quiet. Not because I need to remember what we went through. But because I need to remember why we made it through. If you've read this far, you know this wasn't just a story. This was a warning, a record, a testimony. Because not every man who's accused is guilty. And not every woman who cries is telling the truth. And that's a hard thing to say out loud in this world. But I said it anyway. Because the moment you stop telling the truth, even when it's hard, even when it's unpopular, you let the lie win. I didn't let it win. And if this story helped you in any way, like it, share it, send it to someone who needs to know they're not alone. The system didn't save me. Proof did. And now you have that proof, too. The end.